Welcome to our video. We want to look today at your business to make sure that you're making money. And one of the most important concepts within that is what is your magic number. And today in this video, we're going to look at a number of concepts and a number of examples in helping you to understand what that number is and how you can apply it to various aspects of your business. So today we're going to explain the concept of the break-even point and using break-even analysis as a tool in your business. This is not only a financial analysis tool, but also an important decision tool that can support you and help you make informed decisions regarding such things as your pricing, investment decisions, such as whether we should purchase new equipment or hire new staff, and many other aspects. Importantly, it's also a very easy concept to understand and to work with. We're also going to briefly look at the role of preparing and using management accounts and breaking your costs down into fixed and variable costs, and work through a number of examples of break-even analysis and finding out what the magic number is for your business. So very simply then, what is break-even analysis? It is the point in your business when total costs are equal to total revenue or sales. It is the point at which your business is making neither a profit or a loss. But we're in business to make a profit, so why bother knowing about break-even? Well, break-even is simply about understanding the relationship between price, volume, and costs. The price is how much you charge your customers for your products or services, and this is excluding VAT, of course. The volume is the number of units that you sell, and the costs are the total costs involved in running your business, or in other words, how much money you pay out to keep your door open and achieve your sales. Your sales then are simply the volume sold multiplied by the price charged, while your profit or loss is the sales minus the costs that you have incurred. And understanding how changes to any one of these elements impacts the others helps you make more informed decisions aimed at maximizing the profitability of your business. So think of it this way, costs, they're constantly increasing. And if you want profit to increase, you have to either increase your prices or sell more of your products and services or do a combination of both. Or what about if you decide to have a sale or offer discounts at peak times? You have to figure out how much more you have to sell to continue to be profitable, or even if you have to try and reduce your costs somehow. So understanding this relationship between price, volume and costs helps us to answer these questions and many other questions in our business. We can also use break-even to apply it to different parts of your business. Because a break-even point analysis is used to determine the number of units that need to be sold or the euros of revenue to be earned to cover total costs. For example, we can calculate what is the break-even point and hence the lowest price that you sell your experience at. For example, if you're a water sports activity provider, do you know how much it costs you to provide a 2-hour guided kayak tour for a 5-person group? If you don't, then how do you know you're making a profit or a loss on this activity, or how much profit you make? Knowing your break-even point allows you to set an absolute floor price under which you will make a loss. It allows you to know the lowest possible level of sales needed to cover your costs and not incur a loss. It supports you in pricing decisions, so it tells you an absolute minimum price. It supports you in investment decisions, such as should I hire a new staff member or should I invest in new equipment, for example. So to summarize, it will help us to reach sound decisions and answer some of the questions we face every day in our business, such as should I purchase new equipment or offer more of a particular service? Should I offer a new experience to my customers? Do I need to hire more people? And does this make sense from a business point of view? Should I move to a larger premises where the rent is more expensive? So how much more sales will I have to generate to cover my increased costs? Or perhaps my competitors are discounting, so how much can I afford to discount to retain my market share? Break-even analysis helps us to answer these and many other important questions about your business. So it is a very useful financial tool that you as a business owner or manager can have in your toolkit. To surmise then, break-even analysis helps us to make sound business decisions in relation to your overall business or to a part of your business, such as a business unit like your cafe or your retail shop, for example. Or indeed you can apply it to a particular product or service, such as the example we gave, like the 2-hour guided kayak trip. I want to deal a small little bit with management accounts and understanding your fixed and variable costs. This is important in terms of classifying your costs, as we will see later on. We know when a business is profitable or not by looking at its profit and loss statement. This is a statement of revenue and costs over a given period of time, generally 1 year. But the problem with a profit and loss account is that it is historic. It only looks at past performance and does not take into account what is happening now or the current circumstances of our business. Its real value lies in giving us a benchmark to work from, an identification of what level our historical costs were as a reference to the future. On the other hand, management accounts present a picture of the present situation. What is the current position and financial standing of our business? Management accounts are usually prepared on a monthly or sometimes a weekly basis, and it allows you to see the current costs and sales in the business. For this reason, it is important that every business has some form of management accounts. So let's look at how costs are classified in break-even analysis. We need to look at them a little bit differently than normal, and especially what causes a cost to be incurred and how those costs behave. On the left, we have a traditional profit and loss account, which we are familiar with. Here we have sales of €1,000 minus the cost of sales of 500 gives us a gross profit of €500. Then we take away our expenses, which leaves us with a profit, in this case, of €250. In break-even analysis, we look at it in a slightly different way. We start with the same sales, then we take away variable costs. This leaves us with the contribution margin of €800. The contribution margin percentage is the contribution margin divided by the sales. We will use this percentage a lot in our examples. Then we take away our fixed costs of the business and we are left with the same net profit of €250. So it's a different way to present our profit and loss account for break-even analysis. So let's look and see what is classified as a variable cost. We classify costs as to how they behave in a business. Very simply, variable costs are those costs that your business incurs because you make a sale only. If you make the sale, the costs are incurred. If you don't incur any costs. A simple example we will use is for a restaurant. So if you make a sale of a meal, then the variable costs of that meal are the purchasing the food, the cost of preparing the food, such as energy and cooking costs, consumables such as napkins or other disposables that the customer may use, and the direct labour associated with the preparation of that food, such as the chef and the service costs. Now remember, it can be hard to price the actual cost of labour for a meal, so many times we will leave these out and consider them fixed costs, because in reality a chef and service staff will be incurred anyway in anticipation of customers coming into your business. So the most common examples of variable costs that go into providing your goods and services are things like direct labour, materials, direct transport, commissions on sales, merchant fees, packaging, and consumables used. Now these variable costs will rise and fall in proportion to the amount of sales that you make in your business. The more sales you make, the higher the variable costs. And if sales decrease or you make none at all, variable costs decrease or are not incurred at all. So when you take variable costs away from sales, you are left with what is known as your contribution margin. The contribution margin is what is left over to go towards covering your fixed costs and leaving a profit in your business. Now let us look at fixed costs and what they are. Fixed costs are those costs that will be incurred regardless of whether or not you make a sale. It is normally things like your rent, your insurance, advertising, salaries not related to production such as marketing, utilities like water, electricity, phone, repairs to buildings and equipment, and travel. Very simply, these are all the things you need to pay for to allow your business to open its doors, regardless of whether or not you have a customer or a sale. Just a few points about fixed costs. Fixed costs generally stay the same, but do increase over time, but not in the same manner as variable costs. They increase in a step-like fashion, so they do not increase at the same proportion as sales. For example, you may have to move to a bigger premises, so your rent will increase all at once. Or you may decide to spend more on advertising and marketing to attract more customers, so your monthly advertising will increase in a single step. So fixed costs will stay the same for a given range of sales. A certain level of fixed costs provides your business with the capacity to make a certain level of sales. But to grow beyond that, you will need more resources, perhaps people, equipment, and so on, and therefore this increases your fixed costs to the next level. So now you've seen how fixed and variable costs behave differently as your sales increase. So break-even analysis is based on classifying your costs between variable and fixed. And to do a break-even analysis, we need to know our costs and which category they fall into. Your cost of sales will always be variable. That is, they always increase as your sales increase. Your expenses will either be fixed or variable, and it's up to you to classify them, depending on whether or not they increase with sales. For example, sales commissions will always be variable, whereas something like insurance will be a fixed cost. This is the hardest part of doing break-even analysis, and if you're in doubt as to whether a cost is fixed or variable, put it down as a fixed cost. So we've learned that classifying costs and how they behave is the basis for break-even. We're now going to move on and look at a few examples of how we use this information to calculate your break-even point. There are 4 simple steps involved. Step 1 is classify your costs between variable and fixed. Remember, it's a variable cost if it's incurred by making a sale. If you incur it anyway, it's a fixed cost. If you're not sure, classify it as a fixed cost. Step 2 is calculate the variable cost per sale and the variable cost percentage. This is the total of all your variable costs divided by the total number of units sold in your business, i.e. the volume. So here's an example. Let's say the average price of a meal in a restaurant is €16. You've determined that the total variable cost of providing that meal are €4. So variable costs divided by sales is equal to the variable cost percentage, which in this case is €4 divided by €16 equals 25%. And what this means is that for every euro of sales that you make, 25% of it, or 25 cents, goes towards covering the variable cost of making those sales. Step 3 then is calculating your contribution margin. Contribution margin is the amount you have left over after each sale and after paying for your variable costs that goes towards covering your fixed costs and profit. So essentially, in the example, sales price of 16 less the variable cost of 4 leaves us with a contribution margin of €12 or 75%. So we usually express contribution margin in terms of percentage as well. The contribution margin percentage is a percentage of each euro that we have left over after covering variable costs that can go towards fixed cost and making a profit. So in our example, the variable cost percentage is 25%, therefore the amount left over, and hence the contribution margin is 75%. So for every €1 of sales made, there is a 75 cents left over to cover fixed costs and profit. In business, the higher the contribution margin percentage, the better, because this means you have a better chance of making a profit and you have more money or resources to invest in your business in areas such as business growth, in areas such as marketing, to help you grow your sales and your market share. So our final step is step 4, and this is calculating your break-even point. And this is very simply your total fixed costs divided by your contribution margin. So let's say in our example, our total fixed costs for a restaurant are €80,000 per year. And we really just need to figure out how many of the contribution margins of €12 do we need to earn to cover our fixed costs and break even. So we divide fixed costs by the contribution margin, that's 80,000 divided by 12, and we find out that we have to sell 6,667 meals per year. And that is a total sales of €106,672 to break even. And if we sell one more meal or one more unit, then we have made a profit. So here you have it in 4 simple steps to calculate your break-even point in your business. But all that this is really telling us is the point at which we are breaking even. We are making no profit or no loss. Break even is the point at which you actually start making a profit. But of course, as ever, it's not that simple. There are very few businesses that sell just a single item or a single product or service. How do you know that individual products, services or experiences are covering their fixed and variable costs and making a profit? So you can use break-even to calculate the break-even point for a part of your business, such as delivering your tourism experiences, your cafe, like we have done here. But before you do so, you have to work out the fixed and variable costs of providing that experience. And if you get that part right, the rest is easy. Break-even can also be presented on a chart like we have here. The green line starting at the bottom left, called TR, represents your total revenue. And you can see that it increases as your sales output or volume increases. The red line, TC, is your total cost line. That also increases as sales increased. The blue line, again starting at the bottom, VC, is your variable cost. And you can see that this increases in the same proportion as your sales increases. Whereas the yellow line, FC, represents your fixed cost. Your fixed costs don't change over time. And the red line, the TC, total cost, is the total of your variable cost and your fixed cost for any given level of sales. Your break-even point is the point at which the total revenue, the green line, and the total cost, the red line, intersect. So in this business, in this example, we would have to sell quantity 1 to generate sufficient revenue or income to cover our total cost. So very simply, break-even being presented on a graph. Now let's look at some changes in your business and how this can impact on break-even. Changes in variable costs. What if, in our example, the cost of goods sold increases? If we don't increase our price, then we have less money available to cover our fixed costs. We can use break-even analysis to calculate what our new break-even sales point will be, or calculate what we must increase our selling price by to make the same profit. Of course, if you do increase prices, you have to decide if the market can absorb this. So let's say in our example that our food supplier has increased prices of €1 per meal, and we decide not to pass this increase on to our customers. So our variable costs now increase to €5, and our contribution per sale is now €11 rather than 12, and our contribution margin has dropped to 68.75%. We can now see that we have to sell 7,272 meals per year to break even. That's an increase of 9% in both volumes and sales to break even. This has resulted from a €1 increase in variable costs. So if your variable costs go up, we see that we have to make more sales just to make the same level of profit or stay standing still. Our next example, what if fixed costs go up? Remember, your fixed costs go up in a stepped fashion. So let's say our fixed costs increase by 20,000 per year from 80,000 to 100,000. Okay, so our new fixed costs are 100,000 in this case. Let's say we hired a new staff member. We use the same formula to calculate our new break-even sales and break-even point. We now see that break-even point has moved substantially upwards to 8,333 units to be sold, or €133,328 in sales. That's a massive 25% increase in volume and sales to cover a fixed cost increase of €20,000. We can now start to see the benefit of using break-even to examine the impact of a fixed cost increase. It can be a common misconception that in this business we only needed to increase our sales by 20,000 to cover the fixed cost increase of 20,000. But we see here it's actually we need to increase sales by 26,656 because of the variable costs associated with making each sale. Even simpler, we could have just used a formula on the new fixed cost and see what additional sales we needed to generate and add to the current break-even sales. So in this case, it's a new salary cost of 20,000 divided by the contribution margin of 75% to give us new sales required of 26,656. It's the exact same answer we get each time. Again, an increase of 1,666 meals to cover our new hire. So different uses of break-even analysis. Introducing the concept again of the magic number. The magic number makes everything very simple. If you know your business's magic number, you can apply it to all sorts of situations in your business on the spot to help you make better informed and better decision making. The magic number is simply the amount of sales needed to cover a €1 increase in fixed cost. And we calculate it by dividing €1 by your contribution margin percentage. And in our example, so for every €1 increase in fixed costs of your business, we need to generate €1.33 in sales to cover that €1 increase in fixed cost. So for your business, please calculate this number and know what it is. So for example, if you're negotiating your annual insurance premium with your provider and they want an extra €1,000 premium, you can quickly calculate in your head that you need to generate an additional €1,333 in sales to stay at the same profitability levels. So knowing your magic number will help you negotiate and know when a fixed cost element is getting too high. So now you can see how break-even can give you more informed decision making and better business propositions. Another use of break-even analysis is to use it to calculate the required increase in sales to achieve a forecast level of profits. Calculating the sales necessary to achieve a desired profit means you can then build this into your sales plan. So now we see break-even becoming a planning tool. So let's say in our example, our total fixed costs are still 80,000 and we want to make a planned profit of 25,000. We simply add the two together to come up with a new total of €105,000. We use our formula again, the new total divided by contribution margin, which will give us our target sales figure to make that €25,000 profit. And we can see it's 105,000 divided by 75% gives us a target sales figure of €140,000 to make a profit of 25,000 in our business. And equating that into volume, it's 8,750 meals per year that we need to sell. Break-even analysis is an extremely good tool for use in setting your prices for your products or services. We can also use it to see the impacts of volume changes on our profitability or impacts of using a higher or lower price. So for example, if you have to reduce your prices, how much do you have to increase sales volume by to maintain the same level of profits and ensure that you are not worse off? Let's say in our restaurant we have to reduce the average cost of a meal to €14 from €16 because our competitors are discounting. We want to make the same level of profit of €25,000. Our fixed costs have stayed the same, so we need to see what increase in volume we need to achieve to make the same profit. So our fixed costs and target profit remain the same at €105,000. So we divide €105,000 by the contribution margin of €10. That's the new contribution margin because our sales price has fallen to 14 and our variable costs have stayed the same. So we now see that we have to sell 10,500 meals to break even. So we see that a price drop of 12.5% means we have to increase sales volume by a massive 20% to earn the same profit. The variable costs do not change, as all we did was reduce our selling price. But by reducing our selling price, we see that we have only €10 to go towards covering our fixed costs and making a profit. So a 12.5% reduction in price means we have to increase volume by 20% to maintain profits. So what that means for your business is that it's 20% more work that you need to do as a result of reducing your price by 12.5%. Here it brings in more important business decisions. More work means more fixed costs because you may have to employ more staff, you may have to buy more equipment, you may have to spend more on marketing and advertising, or maybe have a bigger premises. You might find that the fixed costs will jump up, one of those steps we talked about earlier. And if they do, you are now in a new fixed cost phase and you will have to recalculate your break-even point all over again. So you will have to be really careful to consider your pricing decisions and whether it is worth it overall for your business. Other questions to consider are, what if you do not achieve that 20% increase in volume? You could end up with a serious dent in your profit. Also, there can be good reasons to discount your prices, like to get in new customers or bring in larger volumes of customers such as coach tours, so you have to consider these facts as well. But you see, you can now use break-even analysis to calculate the potential impact of various scenarios and make a more informed and data-backed decision for your business. Now let's look at the other side. What if you decide to raise your prices by 12.5%? Now the picture looks like this. Our selling price goes up to €18 and our contribution margin has increased to €14 or 78%. When we divide our fixed costs and our expected profit by the contribution margin, we see now that we have to sell only 7,500 units to make our desired profit. That's a 14% reduction in volume with a 12.5% price increase, the reverse of the previous example. So if you consider that you will lose less than 14% in volume, then you are making even greater profit. So you could afford to lose up to 14% of sales units and keep the same profit. It should mean less work to achieve the same volume. And that seems to make sense. Work less and earn the same. But from a business point of view, you must consider other factors like, can the market absorb this price increase? Will customers move to my competitors? Or what will be the actual impact on volume? Maybe I'll lose more than 14%. But if your answer is none, or only a small percentage of loss, then it would seem that there is room in the market for an increase in price. So it makes solid business practice to review your prices on a regular basis, at the very least once a year, and in tourism, which is highly seasonal, perhaps twice a year. Use these as opportunities to test new prices by asking your customers, perhaps test them in the quiet season. And if you continue to offer the customers value, then you are less likely to lose the business and it is easier to introduce some price increases. So in summary then, break-even is a very powerful tool to use in your business. It is a very simple tool to use. It is a 4-step process, allowing you to classify your costs between variable and fixed, find out what your contribution margin is, and find your break-even point and break-even level of sales. You can use break-even to understand the impacts of cost changes in your business, the impacts of price changes, and to know what volume changes are needed in times of growth. So thank you for watching our video, and we hope you find the information relevant and useful for your business. For further information, please go to the training and support section on our website, www.voltaireland.ie.